going to start off with the reason my mod list is different when I'm making mission files versus when I'm playing the game. So I'm just going to go down to my mod list right here. So I've got my preset here, 91st map making. I could go through every single mod, but I'm not going to. There's some key things here. When you're making a mission, some things to think about. Basically, when you make the mission, whatever mods you have loaded generally are going to be required to play that mission for compatibility reasons. So like, if I make a mission with Operation Trebuchet and someone who doesn't have Operation Trebuchet tries to play it, it's going to say, fuck off, you can't play this, you don't have the content. So with that in mind, the best way to make missions is using the absolute minimum mods that you need. Just the things you need for the content and for the settings. So obviously I need things like JLTS because it's got our armor, and ACE because that's a key component to the game. Cup terrains, I need that for the maps. Things like that. That's what you want to think about. You only want the minimum mods loaded to make the mission for the content that you need. Additionally, some other mods I have on here, completely optional. Oh, see, I have DUI. See, I shouldn't have that on this mod list. And I have Crow's Zeus editions, which I shouldn't have on this mod list. No one's perfect. I'm actually going to remove those right now. Save. So these three Eden mods, they don't cause compatibility, and they give us some cool Eden options that make my life easier. That's what it's all about, making life easier. So that's why I have them. You don't have to use them yourself, but I like them, and they don't cause compatibility issues. I guess before I get too far into it, I should preface with I am not an expert. I'm not an expert at this. I've just played a fuckload of Arma. I know a lot of people have pretty high numbers. I'm sitting at 3857. There's people with more hours in Arma than me. There's people with less hours in Arma than me. I'm not an expert on these. I just have made a lot of mission files. Some of them work, some of them don't. So I'm not saying that there's not someone out there that knows more than me. There certainly is, but I picked up a couple of things. So with the mod list in mind, I'm just going to click play and we can kick her off. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us through making a regular Star Wars mission file, something that any old Zeus would use on our server. Okay, so this is the Eden editor. First thing, when I'm making a mission, I always do this first, is I fix these settings. The default settings, as I'm sure you're aware, not going to work. So, settings. We're going to go to add-on options. This is things like ACE settings and mod settings. So I can show you here. 3AS, you can adjust the fuel consumption on the jetpack. ACE advanced fatigue. You can adjust all these little bedingly-donglies. Normally you'd think, wow, that's going to take 2 hours for me to make each mission file. Look how many settings there are. There's a million of them. But the cool thing is you can have presets. So for me, I'm just going to click load. And this is the 91st ACE settings. This is the one that we use. I'm just going to click OK. Perfect. Done. I'm going to do the same thing with the server. You want to do them both. Otherwise, sometimes they will overwrite each other. So you want to make sure they both match. If you don't have the 91st ACE settings saved in your Arma, there's actually a handy dandy thing. You just need to get it from someone in C2. It saves to a notebook file. Where did it go? Got it on my desktop here. Here we go. So you open the notebook file. And I'm going to open that over here. I am just going to press Control A to select everything. Control C to copy it. And now I go back to Arma. And I click Import. Control V, that'll paste it. Click OK. That's the same thing. And once you've imported that, so once you've done that import action, save it. You can save it and name it whatever the fuck, 91st ACE settings, 91st Ligma settings, whatever the fuck. So that's ACE settings. Be very, very careful with this, guys. It seems so dumb. I have missed this step a lot. I make these missions all the fucking time. I spend a lot of time in Eden, and I miss that step a lot. Generally speaking, when you're making these, it's really important to be methodical. It's so easy to miss a step, and then your mission file's borked. Something's not going to work right. The ACE medical isn't there, or whatever the fuck. So always make sure you're very methodical when you're making these. You want to do it to the mission file and the server, and you want to... look, that didn't stick. Boop. So do it to both of them and click OK. You can see there's a couple of symbols here. The little check mark, this setting applies. It's pretty simple. The little yellow X means it's being overwritten, but it's not being changed. If there's a red X, that means it's being overwritten by the other, like either the server or the mission is overwriting each other. So that's why I want to make them both the same. Because otherwise you'll get like, oh, I set my mission ace settings to be correct, but the server is overriding them with the default ones, and so we're bleeding out from a bump on the toe. That kind of thing. So ace settings, be careful, be methodical with them. Next thing we're going to set is attributes. Again, being methodical and systematic with this is imperative, so you'll miss stuff. I've missed stuff before. No one's perfect, but so general, the author, whatever, put whatever you want. Always uncheck require DLC. It shouldn't be an issue, but every once in a while, it's Arma, so it is. You don't want to lock people out for not having DLC for something you put down. Loading screen, we don't need to do. Overview, we don't need to do. States. This one is important. So advanced flight model starts unchecked. We leave that. We don't use an advanced flight model. If you want to in your own time, perfect. But the main thing we need to see here is enable saving. The vanilla Arma saving function actually doesn't even work that well, even in regular missions, especially not for our Zeus templates. So always uncheck that bitch. Never want to have that on. And then some other things, you can change who the independent's default allegiance is here. Doesn't really matter because you can change it in Zeus anyways. Always leave binarized scenario file unchecked. Always leave binary scenario file unchecked. There's some other things you can see here. Editable objects. So basically all of these other options are from those mods, those Read advanced mods that I put on there. I like to hide hostile units because I think it's fun, because I think Arma spotting them is dumb. That's just me. You don't necessarily have to, but I like to do that because I think it's adds that difficulty and it makes it so it's not so whatever is easy to find enemies. So I always do that. That's pretty much all you need to do for our mission files in general. The rest of these kind of fix themselves. So we're gonna just click OK. We're going to move on to multiplayer. Environment just changed like time of day and weather, which you can change in Zeus as well. So multiplayer, these are again important. Game type, I always, again for posterity's sake, I always put cooperative mission. It's the only thing we do. I always set the max players to about 75 just so it doesn't fuck with anything. I'm told that this doesn't really matter, but I've made several mission files that work and I always do this. So, you know, maybe it doesn't matter, but I always do it for fun. Enable AI. We always want to disable that. That's not enabling like enemies to be placed down. It means that if there are slots that aren't taken, they're going to be filled with an AI character. We don't want that. This is useless. Just takes up server resources. So uncheck that. Respawn. This is an important one. Respawn on custom position. This lets us place a spawn point. That's kind of how all of our mission files work. So respawn on custom position. That's the one you want. Show respawn counter, that's like if you had a limited amount of lives, that would apply, but it doesn't. So the only thing we need to have check here is select respawn position. So check, select respawn position. Respawn delay, the default on our mission files is 5 seconds, so I'm going to type in 5 seconds. We typically don't show the scoreboard. I think it has something to do with like not making it competitive. And that's it. That's the whole thing. Allow manual respawn just allows you to press escape and click respawn, but that's what the multiplayer whatever should look like. There's other stuff down here. This revive, this is the vanilla revive, so I don't fuck with it because Ace overwrites it anyways. Tasks, that's a whole nother thing. For our purposes, for this 91st Star Wars mission file, this multiplayer setting is complete, so I'm going to click OK. Always click OK, don't click cancel. OK saves the settings, cancel does not, so that can be a problem. Okay, so we got through the settings, so now the world is acting like it should, essentially. From this point, where do we want to put a fob? You know, where do we want to put this spawn point on the map? In my mind, the optimal place for a spawn on a Zeus template. So this is something where I want any Zeus to be able to come in and make whatever fucking mission they want. The optimal place to put it is somewhere that doesn't see a lot of playtime. Like a lot of times, beginning mission makers, I've done this. You put it on an airfield. It's like, oh, cool, it's an airfield. Looks like a cool base. Makes sense. It's a cool base. But now the Zeus can't use this airfield to attack. You know, it can't be a combat area. It would be a cool place to fight, but we can't because our spawn is there. So what we do, we actually in C2 have a handy dandy little composition of a little offshore base. So we put it out in the middle of the ocean, and that way, you know, no one's going to be fighting out in the middle of the fucking ocean anyways, so it leaves the whole map for the Zeus to do whatever they want. Actually, I'm going to put it up here. So I'm going to go to compositions, custom. I have obviously several. And once I place this down, I can kind of go over compositions as well. Let me find it. Offshore. Compositions. Actually, I'm just going to go over compositions. So basically, a composition is a bunch of props stuck together to be like one thing. So instead of having to build like a whole base piece by piece, I can build it and then save it as a composition, and then I can just shit that base out whenever I want. So you'll see, whenever you're placing compositions, this is a pro gamer move. Whenever you're placing compositions, you're going to want to come up to the top here. There's two buttons, toggle vertical mode and toggle surface snapping. We want those to be unchecked. So the vertical mode, it should look like a straight line over a hill. That's when you know it's correct. Surface snapping should look like two arrows going away from the middle. Basically, we don't want these things to snap to the earth. We want them to just, you know, shit out into space. Otherwise, it'll set off the alignment here. I'll do it with these on just to show you what it looks like fucked up. So I turned both those things on, and I'm going to spawn this little oil rig. And it's going to be jank. See how everything's fucked up? Like the things are in the wrong place. It's trying to align all of these props to some kind of terrain and each other, and it just doesn't fucking work. So we're going to delete all this shit. I'm going to delete all these folders with this shit. And now, let me make sure I'm in the right spot. Yeah. I'm going to do vertical mode, surface snapping, so that they look correct. We're going to plop down that oil rig. It's going to look perfect. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful. So the nice thing about this composition, it comes with several things that normally we would have to do on our own. These are all the player slots. They are named, you know, Citadel, Battalion Command, you know, Squad 1 Medic, Squad 1 Team Lead, whatever the fuck. They come with those names because, again, they're a composition, so they were made already. Game Master, that allows someone to go into Zeus. Game Master, that allows the co-Zeus to be a Zeus. TFAR, Enforced Usage, that's the thing that yoinks you into the TFAR channel. So all these are pre-placed with this composition. I can go over making those later, but just for this is just like the basic part of the workshop. They come with this composition. It's really cool. The other thing this composition comes with is arsenals. So these little boxes are already arsenals. And there's a medical guy in here too that Scorch made, I think. Yeah. This guy will heal you if you come up to him. So that's this composition. At this point, what we have is the settings are correct. We now have spawn slots and a spawn base, and Zeus interface is on there, Enforced TFAR is on there. What we need to do now is set a spawn point for when we die. So we could spawn in right now, but if we die, it would say there's nowhere to spawn because we haven't placed a spawn point. This gets a little tricky when you're doing it on this oil rig, or for example, if you're doing like a regular military Arma, if it's an aircraft carrier, it gets a little tricky because the spawn points are markers. Anyways, there's a trick to it. So what I'm gonna do, this is a little tricky, so if you're not paying attention, now's the time to tune in. I'm just gonna place down any random old motherfucker. I'm just gonna place an ammo bearer down, doesn't matter. And then I'm gonna go to markers. I'm gonna zoom way the motherfucking respawn infantry. I'm just gonna set the infantry respawn down. When you make these markers, you have to name them. You have to change the variable name or it won't do anything. If you want it to be a blue 4 respawn, it has to have the name respawn_west. Respawn_west. Otherwise, it won't do anything. For example, if you're making a red 4 op or a green 4 op, you'll have to name them different things. Red 4 is respawn east, green 4 is respawn gorilla, like GUE gorilla. just for reference. So now what I'm going to do, I've got my respawn point. It works now because I renamed it. I'm going to drag it right on top of this little sumbitch. Right on top of that ammo bearer I plopped down. Perfect. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, make sure I don't get my camera. And I'm going to highlight both of them. So now both of them are selected. Now, I can move the spawn point with this little guy, where normally the spawn point's on that 2D plane, so I can't adjust the height of it. Now I can because it's attached to this little sumbitch. So now I'm just going to take him way out into the ocean, back to the oil rig, and we're going to put him where we want everyone to spawn, right by the arsenals. Shout out to Mr. Rat. Rat taught me this trick. I'm not taking credit. Basically, none of this I'm really taking credit for, by the way, as we go on. This is all stuff I've Googled. None of this was, like, discovered by me. I always learned everything from something else. So we put this guy, I'm going to put him a little bit, just like an inch above the ground, so he'll spawn a little bit high. That way they don't spawn, like, in the middle of the fucking structure. So that's where the spawn point is. Now, I'm going to deselect just by left-clicking out in BFE. I'm going to highlight this bitch, and press delete. Now we just have a spawn point there. So, to sum up, we've done the settings with add-on settings, so we set the ace medical and all that shit. Attributes, we made the mission not save, not have AI, have a spawn point we can select. We've put down this composition, which has spawn slots and arsenals. It's got these two game master modules. And I put a spawn point inside of it. That's essentially it. That's how I make these mission files. So I'm going to save this because I'm actually going to upload this to the server at some point, probably today. But then I'll crank open a new one, and I'll do an RHS one just so you guys can see a little bit of the nitty gritty. I don't have as many compositions there, so I'll have to build them myself. I'll do an RHS one and show you there. So I'm going to save as, and this is Malden 2035, right? And what's the date? 8/21/21. Okay. 91st. Sure. I've been dating these mission files so that we know when we have out-of-date ones on the server. You can see like what the actual fucking date is. 8/21/21. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so I save it, and then I export it to multiplayer. Always save as, export to multiplayer. There's another step here to prepping the mission file. So I'm actually just going to Alt-Tab and then pull up my fucking directory here. Generally speaking, Arma stores your mission files in like your C drive, documents, Arma other profiles, whatever your name is, MP missions. I'm just going to delete all these. So these are all the mission files I have right now. These are just all the ones that I've made. So we're going to look for the one that I just made, 91st Offshore, Malden 20, wherever I named it, 35. I'm just going to sort by date modified. Malden 35, perfect. So for those of you in C2, this is really important. If you're not in C2, this isn't super important. Before you upload a mission file to the C2 Discord, you want to go into this directory, get in here, and you'll have to put a couple of documents in there. I have them saved for ease of use. Init and description. I'm just going to copy those and paste them. For those of you in C2, if you need those, you can get them in the C2 Discord. To make a long story short, those are the scripts that help the mission file run. Things like infinite loading screen, and I think Scorch has a couple other goodies in there. Basically, you want to put those in here before you give us the mission file. So now I've put those scripts in the mission file. I'm going to go back to the directory. I have PBO Manager installed on my computer, PBO Manager, and that packs it into a PBO. Think of it kind of like 7-zip or Windows 7, but for Arma mission files. So now it packs it into this mission file, and now I would upload it onto the server. I'm not going to do that on stream because I have to like type in my server creds, but that's a mission file. That is done. So now I'll make a goofy one. Okay, Phobos, 200% empty. So I got nothing here. first step, again, settings. So I'm going to add on options, mission. Even when I make funky campaign missions, I like to use the 91st ACE settings because I think we have our medical settings pretty well dialed in, and I don't like to have to fuck with it. Fucking with the medical settings can take a goddamn hour. So I'm just going to load, select, okay, okay. Something you can do, not only in Eden, but in, like when you're in client, if you want to check whether the medical settings are correct, the one you're looking for is the bleed rate. The bleed rate. So we're going to go down to ACE Medical. Okay. If you're ever in there and you're like, man, I wonder, did I remember to do the ACE settings? Check the bleed rate. Bleeding coefficient, pain coefficient should both be at 0.7. That's what you're looking for. That is the red flag. If it's 0.7, perfect. Did it. Let's double check the server. Make sure it's got the same one. Look at that. 0.7, 0.7. Beautiful. So the settings, the ACE settings on this are green to go. Attributes. General. Don't require the DLC. States. Disable saving. Doesn't make sense for us. And then I think there's the... I like to hide hostile units on the map. Basically, it forces people to actually identify and mark them themselves. Boom. Dunsky. Settings are all good to go now. So now I'm gonna make, I'll make like a spawn composition for you. Let's just do over here, and we are gonna use. Who is it that has the commandos? Here we go. We'll make a Republic Commando one just for funsies. So here's boss. When you first place down a blue 4 unit, it defaults with this red ring around it. That means it is forcing the player to take this spot. We don't want that. So what you're going to do, you can either double click or right click on it and go to attributes. What we want to have, if we're using it as a spawn slot, playable. Just check playable. That's all you need. Variable name, not super important at this point unless this is the Zeus. So we're going to pretend it's not. Role description is what it will show up as when you're picking the role. So if you wanted to say Republic Commando. If I can type in an O. So now when we start this mission, when we're hosting it, when someone is picking between roles, oh, I want to be the Republic Commando, so I'll click on this one, because it'll say that. Otherwise, it defaults to the unit name, which will be like 3AS Republic Commando Boss. So it'll say this instead of whatever you type in here. A couple of other things. Skill, health armor, ammo. These don't really matter as much. The health armor you don't want to fuck with. Skill only applies to AI. Ammo usually doesn't matter because we're going to be whatever, using a virtual arsenal to rearm. Rank, again, not really applicable here. Stance, not applicable. Visibility, limit by object view. I don't really fuck with that. You can add a flag texture onto it. Again, I don't really fuck with that. Special states. Enable simulation. Don't mess with that on player units because that just will make it not be simulated. You can disable damage if you want something to be invincible. Enable stamina. This again only shows up because I have that 3 in advanced mod, but it's nice that they have these things. Create simple object. I'll go over later. So lots of options here. Most of them I don't use. Where's the one I'm looking for? Where the fuck are you? Ace options. Here we go. This is where we give spawn slots ace perms. So if you want this commando to start having engineering and medical perms, perfect. That's where you do it right here. You make them EOD. I think that increases the speed at which they disable and arm explosives. Start them handcuffed. Start them surrendered. So yeah, this is where you would handle the ace perms for doing medical and for doing engineering things. The purple ring, that's what we want for spawn slots. Purple ring means it is a playable unit, but it's not forcing a player into that slot. So I'll make several. Boss, let's make the whole fucking squad. That little line, if you place a unit next to them, that means they're in the same group. I'm gonna put fixer down. See, look, it defaults to that little red line. It's kind of shitty. Playable. And you know what? They're all commandos, so they're all getting all the perms. Good old Scorch. Boom daddy, if you will. Just gonna go through and do this for all of them. Engineer, doctor. They're commandos, they know everything. And good old Sev the Edgelord. Oh shit. You can see very quickly, I hope anyways, that this can become pretty goddamn repetitive. Setting a unit by unit by unit by unit and making their settings individually. This is where compositions come in, and this is where it's going to make your life a lot easier. So let's say I've got these guys set up how I want them to. Now, like, you know what? Every time I want to make a commando mission, I don't want to have to go through and set these fuckers down individually, set their settings, yada yada. So what I'm going to do is select them all, right click, save custom composition, Ligmas. Author, category, whatever. It's just for organizational purposes. Where do you want it to show up? I really don't care, but I'm not very organized. Okay, saved it. So now, on the right-hand side, there should be... I'm gonna have to refresh it. Where'd you go, some bitches? Maybe I should organize it. Here we go, Ligmas. Look at that, it's the same exact guys. Guys, we're gonna have to take a short ad break. I'm doing the ads manually so that they don't happen when I'm talking. I'm gonna run a 3-minute ad and then we're gonna come back to it. That keeps the ads from rolling for like half an hour. So I'm gonna roll one real quickly and then we'll be right back. Alright guys, we should be back now. Again, I hope you don't feel like I'm trying to fucking squeeze you for ads. You don't have to stick around for the ads. Basically, if I manually start them, it keeps them from happening randomly for like half an hour. So I don't want an ad to start when I'm talking, and I don't want you guys to have to miss something. So feel free to tune out during the fucking ads if you don't want to. Of course, staying in is nice for me, but I don't want you to feel like you have to. Anyways, we're talking compositions. So I just made a really simple composition of these 4 guys, their spawn slots, and they have like all the ace perms, engineering, EOD, and medical. So that's just an example. To make bigger examples, you can make really complicated and cool compositions, and it makes your life as a mission maker so much easier. So, for example, I don't know if any of you watching had played in one of my ops where you had to invade a core ship or like a munificent class or something. Those were compositions. I saved those so I don't have to make those fucking pains in the asses again. So let me just do core ship compound. Again, whenever you're dropping compositions down, it is smart to toggle surface snapping and vertical mode. These two options will really fuck up compositions because it doesn't always match the right terrain. Anyways, vertical mode, surface snapping, I've got those unchecked. So I'm going to spawn what looks like I have a core ship compound that I used at some point. So let's see what is in it. Okay, cool. I remember this one. So basically, it's a big base with a wall on the one end. You can see, obviously, it didn't snap to the ground because I didn't tell it to. We can fix that. Little hangar here, little entrance here. If we go clipping inside the core ship a little more, you can see that I've made like some hallways and shit. Again, they're through the terrain because I disabled that, but that's easily fixable. So this is a comp that I saved so that if I want to do it again, I've got a fucking core ship ready to go. These little badongles, hide terrain objects, that's probably for the map itself, so like rocks and trees and shit don't clip through. In this case it doesn't matter because it's Phobos. But that's just an example. Compositions make your life easier. Use them, guys. Use compositions. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one, and we'll go over some other shit. Oh shit, I didn't delete it all. I'm so stupid. Whoop. Okay, so we've got our spawn slots down. Now we want to do another spawn point, because now we've got a thing to spawn into, but nowhere to respawn.
User left your channel.
So now I'm going to plop an infantry respawn down, just like I did before. I'm going to type in respawn _west. I don't have to do the little trick with the ammo bearer this time because it's flat ground. There's nowhere where he has to spawn, up. So I can just plop it down. Let's see what else I got here. I'm just going to go through some of these systems, modules, whatever. There's a million of them. As you can see, I don't use a grand many of them. I'll just go over some ones that I use pretty often. Environment, hide terrain objects. Seems silly, but on somewhere like Altus or Stratus, you know, where players have played a million times. Ooh, hiccups. You can kind of change the layout of the map. You can hide buildings, rocks, ruins, whatever, and replace them with whatever the fuck. So this dome is here already, but let's say, you know, these guys have played on Phobos a lot, and they've always shoot in this dome. I want to make it something different, so I'm just going to put this right there. No more dome. And I'd say I want to put, I don't fucking know, an ATC tower rubble there. Perfect. That's much better, right? That's a dumb example, but that's kind of how that module works. You can adjust several things about it if you double click on the module. So double click gets you this, or right click, go to attributes. So do you want it to hide buildings? Do you want it to hide walls, vegetation, quote unquote other? Transformation, so you can determine the shape of the module and the size of it. So let's say I want this module to take up 500 by 500 meters. I want to delete a whole ass city here. Kaboom. See? Takes it all away. So you can put something else there if you want. Something to bear in mind. Something to bear in mind with the hide, what is it? Hide environment, hide terrain objects. It's not gonna tank your server if you just do it in a couple of places, a few buildings, no biggie. If you start deleting cities, it will begin to have an impact on server performance. Bear that in mind. So use it sparingly if at all possible, especially bearing in mind what else you're gonna do with the mission. You know, is this mission gonna be just, you know, a commando team, small time, inserting whatever the fuck, you know, 4 or 5 players, or is this gonna be a main op with 30 to 50 fucking people and tanks and lats and shit? So bear that in mind when you're using this kind of thing. Edit terrain object. Kind of the same thing, but like on an individual object. You can choose the state of the object. So do I want this to be destroyed? Perfect. Do I want it to be invincible? Do I want the doors to be locked or already open? You just kind of have to discover which doors are which. So in this one, see it open that door. Oh, and it shows it. Sometimes it doesn't show it. I'm just going to delete that. What else we got? There's obviously a bunch of different effects that I don't really use just because I'm not that good at using them, but more often than not it's just for physical or for aesthetic, whatever under effects. I'm trying to remember what the ones. So when you're making your own composition, here's a good one. So let's go back to our spawn guys. I forgot to put a game master in. So if these guys spawned in, they would have an empty map with nothing to do right now. So let's make them a Zeus. Let's give them a Zeus. So just for funsies, since these are commandos, I'm gonna have the Zeus be just a phase 1 clone. I'm gonna place him over here so he's not in their group. I'm gonna edit him, make him playable. Make the role description advisor, just for fun. That's, you know, that's the Zeus because that was in the game. Variable name. This is where this comes into play. So I'm going to take real close note of what I name the variable. I'm just going to name him Zeus, all lowercase. He doesn't need any perms. He's a dungeon master. He's going to be in Zeus most of the time. Okay. Now, to make him an actual Zeus, we're going to go to Zeus, drop down a game master module. Double click to get the attributes. Owner. Units with access to the Zeus interface. I can't read very well, obviously. So you want this field to match the variable name on your Zeus unit. So I typed in Zeus, all lowercase. Variable name Zeus, all lowercase. So now, when this motherfucker spawns in, he's going to have access to the Zeus interface. That's how you do that. A couple of other modules you want to place down. Where the fuck? There's a TFAR one. Enforce usage. I don't usually put this one down because it's in a composition. I always use the compositions to make them. So actually, what we can do... Here's a fun trick. If you get a composition from C2, you can usually steal the settings from the modules for it. So let's just plop down... Where's the offshore one? Here we go. We're going to put that down, and we're going to see what settings we have on TFAR Enforce. So, enabled, 7, Task Force Radio, 1, 2, 3, disabled, enabled. Now we can make this one. Oh, it's pretty much the same. So it's just a regular TFAR and force usage. I'm just going to go ahead and delete these. Sometimes you gotta go through and delete those fucking folders too, they stick around. Okay, so at this point, we've got 4 player slots to spawn in, 1 Zeus spot to spawn in. We gave him the Zeus interface. We're enforcing their use of TFAR. What else is there to do? So, let's say you want to make something cool, like a base, you know, a bad guy base, a CIS base. There's plenty of shit to use in 3AS. It's kind of a pain to fucking connect it all together. It takes time. That's why, again, I use compositions. So let me see, I've got to have one in here. Big size interior. One of these has to be a base, right? Arbitrary square gate. Walled spaceport. I don't remember what this one looks like, but I made it for some op that I never ran. Look at that. Using the CIS walls. Look, there's a gap there because I'm a dumb fuck up. Some trenches. I made a little base. Compositions are important. Look, I just plopped that out. It's something I made earlier. You know, if you have an idea for a base, you can just go into Eden, throw it together, save it as a comp. Easy peasy. When you're making a fob, like for us, like a spawn point, you want something purely for aesthetic reasons. It's not going to see any combat. There's a really neat little tool in that 3 in Advanced mod called Create as Simple Object. Now I gotta remember which fucking fob to use. Oh, it's probably this one. Yeah, I bet you it's this one. We're just gonna plop our fob down here. I'm gonna delete these guys. So you can see there's spawn slots, TFAR and force usage, Game Master, so those are the 2 Zeuses. Hide terrain objects, so you can plop this down pretty much anywhere. I think it even comes with a spawn point. Oh shit, sorry, I had to sneeze. Yeah, comes with a spawn point. That's this motherfucker right here. So you spawn inside the little barracks. You see that all these static objects have the little red dot on them. So what has been done is you go to attributes, you scroll all the way the fuck down. Special states. Hold on. Where the fuck is it? Am I stupid? I am stupid. That's what happens when you don't prepare for things, guys. Anyways, when you're making bases like this, something cosmetic, create as simple object essentially reduces the impact that it's going to have on performance. The impact it's going to have on performance. So let's... What the fuck can I drop down here? Something big. Cobra. Like, say you want a big goddamn Lucre Hulk in the fucking sky. These things are gigantic. You don't expect, you know, no one's going to fight this thing. It doesn't have guns. It's just a prop, right? So what you can do is a couple of things. A, you could just disable the simulation on it, but that means people can fly through it, which, good and bad, I guess. So it's up to you on that one, but you can disable simulation and create as simple object. Basically, it's going to leave the bare minimum to keep this thing up. Enable damage. I'm going to disable damage so it doesn't fall out of the sky. The simple object is going to reduce server impact for having this giant fucking ship in the air, and you still get to have the giant fucking ship in the air. So it's a good way to like add ambiance without demolishing our poor server. So create a simple object. If it's cosmetic, do that. Don't do it with anything you're going to fight around because it deletes, like it removes it from AI pathing. So if you make a base where you're going to fight and you have it as a simple object, the AI will just phase right through the walls. I'm trying to think of anything else. Do we have any questions at this point, guys? I think I'm about at the end of my fucking curriculum here. Assuming no questions at this point. Oh, one more module that I want to go over, one that I've been using a lot lately, I think is kind of fun, is the ambient civilian module. So under ambient, civilian presence, plop it down. What this thing does is it allows you to have a little bit more immersive urban environments by dynamically spawning in civilian units. Normally you would think, you know, all these extra civilians probably going to shit on the server. Well, it actually spawns them in as what is known as agents. Basically, they lobotomize that AI brain that the server has to run and take out all the combat shit and just minimize it to walking around and running away when getting shot at. It's cool. It adds a lot of like I want to say immersion, but ambiance. But so basically, if you have a city, you don't have to spawn in all these fucking civilians to walk around. You just set the module down in the mission file, and now you've got civilians walking around. So let's adjust this. It's the same as many of the modules, many of the area modules. You can set the size of it. I'm just going to do 250 by 250. There's some other things here. Use panic action. So this determines whether they'll run from gunfire and shit like that. Use agents. You do want to do this because otherwise they spawn as standard units and they'll clog up the server. Civilian count. I usually set it on the high side, like 15 to 30. I'm going to say, oh, fuck it. Let's just do 30. And I can show you what it looks like afterwards. So plop that down. So now we've got the zone dictated here. So we have a couple other things to put down before this is going to work. First thing, spawn point. Where are these civilians going to fucking spawn? So I'm just going to put down several. Boop, 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 boop. If you hold control while you do this, you can just keep clicking and keep placing shit. Lots of spawn points, perfect. The other thing they need is waypoints. Like I said, this basically lobotomizes the civilian AI, so they can't make their own waypoints. They can't make their own decisions about where to go. You have to plop them down. So civilian presence position. We're going to double click on it to see the other options. So there's three types. You can do cover, which is they run to it if they're in danger. Waypoint, it's just when they're walking around, or you can do it as both. I don't really do the both one because you get people standing in the middle of the street when they're in danger, and it doesn't look good. So we're just set some waypoints. Check off the closest building for waypoint, and we'll leave the capacity at 3, so that's how many people can be at that point at any given time. So we're just gonna copy and paste these. Control C, and I'm just gonna put a bunch of them down. Boop, 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 boop. I want you to bear in mind while I'm doing this, guys, Phobos is not a great place to use this module. This module is best used in regular cities where there's clear streets. I bet when we play this mission, I bet civilians are going to walk right through here. That's my guess. They'll probably phase right through it because they have no pathing ability. That's probably what will happen. But I'm just showing you this for funsies. And then we'll make some cover ones. Let's say the cover waypoint is always over here by the... I'll raise the capacity. Let's do several cover waypoints by the solar tower here. Okay, so we've got that set down. We've got our settings set up. And I am just going to drop down that base composition. Or I could just use the Republic Commando one. Where's the Ligmas? Man, maybe I should organize this list. There we go. Drop that down. We're going to give them a spawn point. _west. We're going to give them a Zeus, so we're going to drop a Game Master module. We're going to have the owner be called Zeus. I just name it Zeus. We're gotta go run to maid training. Thanks for hanging out, Frere. You can name it whatever you want. Just make sure it matches the variable name on whoever you want to spawn in as Zeus. So, it's, yeah, whatever you want to do it. P1, because it's going to be advisor. Oh, that ain't it. There we go. He spawns as a player, which I don't want. I want it to be playable. Variable name Zeus, like we did before. Advise, oh, for fuck's sake, advisor. Maybe not have him below ground. That'd be smart. I think that's good enough for now. Yeah, this is very simple. I'm gonna save this just as test. Multiplayer mission, test, save. We're gonna export it to multiplayer. Boom. This is a good way to test your mission files. is you know, as you would, save them. I'm gonna cough, hold on. Save them, export them to multiplayer. You're gonna want to close out, go to multiplayer, server browser, host server. God damn it. There's a lot of wildfire smoke around me, that's what's doing this. Come on, load up, Arma. We're gonna go to Phobos, and look at that. Test. It's the one we just made. Ah! I fucked up. I didn't disable the AI. This is a good thing. So when you make your own file and you export it to multiplayer, it'll show up obviously it'll show up in two places here. One of these is editable, so I can just highlight this, click on 3D editor, and it's gonna pop up Eden Editor for me. It takes a minute, but it's easy. When you fuck shit up, it makes it easier to fix. Let's just double check the ACE settings. We're gonna go down to bleed rate, make sure it's correct. Okay. Looks like I just didn't put the multiplayer settings out right. That happens, that's why we're methodical about it. That's a good example of what not to do. Okay. And multiplayer. Yeah, look at that, I didn't do any of this shit. What a rookie goddamn move. Disable AI, respawn. We wouldn't have been able to respawn. Select respawn position. 5 seconds, don't show the scoreboard. And that's much better. Fixed it. That's why we test, people. That's why we always test and double check. I'm gonna exit out. When you edit it like that, you always want to go back to the main menu first, or at least to the server browser, and then click host again. It forces it to pull the new mission file. I've had it where I don't go back to the server browser and it's still using the old mission file. So always go back to server browser before you try and rehost, or it just might not work. It should, it's supposed to, but Arma is Arma. So now we're gonna play this and look at that. No AI. It's gonna be advisor. Now bear in mind, essentially none of my Zeus mods are on because I'm in mission making mode, but this will be a good way to show. Oh, I thought it was going to drag me. Oh, I didn't put the TFAR enforcer on. This would be a good way to show that ambient civilian module. Make sure it worked. Just going to head into Zeus. You can see they've spawned already, and they are just walking around. Yeah, see, they phase through shit though. Watch, this guy's gonna go through the wall. Oh, maybe not. Where is someone? He is. He just came right out the wall. What do I have? Do I have the wrong mod list loaded? No, I don't. I just forgot to disable crows, I guess. Okay, so yeah, that's ambient civilians. I'll show you what it looks like when you freak them out. Yeah, see, they freak out. You can kill them. You can kill them and you can take them like prisoner and shit, but basically it lobotomizes their AI brain so that it doesn't take up like server resources. And I think that's about gonna do it today, guys. Looks like we're clocking in at about an hour and 05. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Last call for any questions of any kind. Any questions about anything. We have no questions, guys. If that's the case, then I'm gonna release ya. It's not like you were held here against your will, but thanks everyone for tuning in and watching this little workshop. If you have questions about any of this, feel free to DM me. That's literally my job in C2 is mission files, so if you have questions about it, shoot me a message. I may or may not do one of these in the future, but I appreciate everyone hanging out, and take it easy, guys.